Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all's well. So, today we've got a live session right now with My London Broker, who is a London based technology firm who advise real estate agents, brokers, consultants in London, in the UK, on how to use technology and drive traffic towards their agencies, generate leads, all that kind of stuff, and how that technology works. I want to know about it because I want to possibly apply that technology and give it a go and see how it goes with my company. And that is why I want to share this knowledge with every estate agent that's out there and they're thinking of technology is changing every second. So how do we adopt to the right technology in our company? So let's take on Mylan Broker. Hello.
Good
Hello.
afternoon.
How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, buddy. Not too
See,
bad.
I'm so dedicated to this live session, I've worn orange today.
Oh, you're a good man. Well done for doing that. That means you've done some research, which is even better.
Well, I saw the colors, so I was like, all right. Actually, it was the only shirt left in the wardrobe
No, you're
after
not
my
supposed to say. Don't burst the bubble. Come on now. That's not fair. That's not fair. I live and breathe that bloody orange now. So you know.
How are you doing,
Um,
Rupert? Are you
Yeah,
well?
I'm very well, sir. I'm very well.
Good stuff.
And
Good
can I
stuff.
hear you properly? Let me just make sure I've got enough sound. Going a bit deaf in my early.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Good.
me?
Super. All good.
Good. Good. So listen, tell. What do you want to talk about? How do you want to do
Well,
this?
the whole reason to bring you on here, I mean, I was really um, amazed at what you're doing and your caption about technology, how you are helping estate agents or, property consultants or brokers in London, in the UK, using the technology that you're using right now, and how can
Yep.
they apply it in their business, in their company. So it would be good to know about it, and possibly I might want to apply that technology into my company. So let's see how it is, and um, I want to know all about it. So before we start, if you can just introduce yourself as to who you are and what you do, and then we can get the conversation going.
Okay. So shall I start? I'll do a bit of history as well, just a bit of
Absolutely.
background,
Yeah, yeah,
so at
sure.
least you know,
History,
at least you know who you're
geography,
talking to.
maths, whatever you want to teach to me.
Okay, so my name's Rupert Collingwood. I am the founder of the London Broker, and the London Broker is probably the latest in my of my businesses. I've done a number of startups over the years, and so
Okay.
I consider myself, rightly or wrongly, to be a sort of property entrepreneur.
Okay.
And my background is, so I started off in agency in 2005. I worked for Roxton's to begin with, back in Lavender Hill,
Okay.
all the way back in 2005. Having
Actually,
spent
I
a few.
started my first job in Battersea on Battersea Park Road.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I
Oh,
was on
that was
Lavender Hill.
that
I
was
know
in that
exactly
was
where.
in
I know
super.
exactly where you were.
Yeah,
I also did a bit of my research. So east and west, wasn't it?
east to west, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So
Just
I
next to
lived.
Chesney's.
Yeah, yeah. I lived on Prince of Wales Drive when I first
Okay,
moved to London.
good stuff.
But and before coming to London, I worked in insurance for a couple of years, a graduate trainee, straight out of university, blah 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 blah.
Okay,
But I fell into property, and I've always and I was lucky with that because I suddenly found I really enjoyed it.
okay,
I loved the camaraderie of it. I liked the banter. I liked the process of selling a house. I
yep,
like dealing with different people day in, day out. I like the
yep,
challenge. I like chasing a deal and all of those sorts of things. That whether that's ebbed and flowed a bit probably over the years. You get a bit tired of it from time to time, but actually, you know, it is fundamentally a very exciting
I think you only
business.
get tired when you're out there. You're constantly chasing, and you're like, oh my god, there's not
Yeah, I
going
mean,
anywhere. But when you do that deal, and it's like, yeah, perfect.
yeah, no, and listen, and I think that, and I will come back to this, but you know, I always knew I wanted to do my own thing eventually, but I was young and I understood that, and my father explained that to me as well. He said, look, before you go off and do something for yourself, you need to go and do it, and you know, understand it and appreciate what the job entails. That's whether that is being the estate agent, being an insurance broker, being a plumber, whatever the hell it is. You've got to know it before you can you can talk about it and understand it. And again, something we'll come back to. But the so having worked at Foxtons, I then worked at another agency, Douglas and Gordon, in South Kensington, moved into central London. And then in 2007, I became a buying agent, and I was a junior partner in a startup firm called Prospect, which was a great little firm. And after that, I did that for, gosh, what was it, 4 years to 2011. And obviously, that was a relatively interesting time. I mean, almost to the day we set up shop.
Can I just stop you there?
The queues for Northern Rock started. So,
yeah.
You know.
What is the I mean, you said buying agent, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a normal estate agent and a buying agent? Okay. I mean, we all do the same thing.
We do well. We do and we don't. So, when in 2005 we absolutely didn't. Do the same thing. So in 2005, 2007, and obviously starting a long time before that, I think it was not maybe 1998 or 1989 even, were the first sort of ones, the sort of early stage of property vision.
Yeah.
You know, buying agents were the preserve of the ultra high net worth, the wealthy. It was a luxury. So a lot of people would retain the services of a buying agent so that they didn't have to use an estate agent. They wanted to.
They would constantly retain that person throughout the year, or would it just be for specific deals?
For the process of buying a house. So not particularly for an investment, maybe they were, but most of the time it was, I'm looking to move to the countryside. That was where actually it started, because of course getting out of London, finding an estate or whatever it was, it is a difficult thing, and the same is true today. It's a difficult thing. A lot of it is off market. It's about who you know and what you know, not necessarily about how long you've been doing it and all the rest of it. So it's all about networks and, you know, and contacts and things like that. And so that's how that buying agency thing started. But in 2000 and when I started in 2007, there were probably about 40 buying agents in prime central London.
Wow.
Fast forward to 2010-11, and all of a sudden you've got the better part of 250, 335 buying agents, etc. Fast forward to 2016, you've probably got 400. You know, and occasionally you get what copied in on the email where the junior in the office has CC'd rather than BCC'd everyone in, and you can see how many people are on that list. You know, it's a big number. Now, actually, I've been through that list once or twice, and a number of them aren't going anymore, or they're sort of little one-man bands or all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with being a one-man band at all. But, you know, there are the businesses that do it, and then there are the hobbyists who do it, and then, you know, there are very good one-man bands who do it, and so it's a different thing. But to come back to your point, the buying agent, I would say pre-2015, 16, only worked for the buyer. They never took a fee from the seller. They were for the most part retained by the buyer. And that was that's who they represented. Contractually,
it was always the buyer.
Always the buyer. And the difference, as you rightly point out, is actually, what is the difference? Because an estate agent looks after buyers just as much as a buying agent does.
Well, I can see the difference here, that because let's say I'm a buying agent and I'm retained by you, for example, and you want to buy a luxury apartment in Knightsbridge,
Yeah.
come from the Middle East or something,
Yeah.
and you've retained me, you know me that, okay. So I would possibly have your best interest at heart rather than the vendor's best interest, because I'm not being paid by the vendor.
Absolutely critical. That is probably the most critical part of it. Because you and I both know that acting as an agent for the vendor, your job is to get the best possible price for the vendor.
Absolutely.
As a buying agent, your job is to get the best possible price for the buyer. But both parties have to understand that there is a compromise, you have to balance, and you have to reach a deal.
Yeah.
You can't just, if both parties have a standoff, then nobody's going to achieve anything anytime soon. And as a buying agent, you've got to buy something. I mean, as a vendor, you've got to sell something. But that's certainly a critical part of it. But I think it's an unusual one, buying property, isn't it? Because if you imagine, even at the lowest levels of buying a company, let's say it was £500,000. You were buying a company for £500,000 today. You'd have an accountant.
Yep.
You'd have a lawyer.
Financial advisor.
And you'd have a financial advisor. The accountant would go in forensic detail through that company.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen on a house. The buyer turns up. They meet the estate agent. They walk around the house. How many times do people buy a house for themselves in their lives? What, 5 times maybe?
Possibly.
And so all of a sudden, why are you not advised? Why are you not taking professional advice?
But then you are advised, right? You're advised by your lawyer.
But the lawyer's not a property expert. The lawyer is a legal expert in the
Surveyor.
title. Surveyor will give you a price.
Architect.
He won't, and what?
Architect.
Yes, absolutely. But these people aren't going to go and search for the house for you.
Understood. But what I'm saying is, let's say there is an agent and he's shown you the house and you like the house, right? Naturally, instinct says that, okay, there are certain works that need to be done to this house. I think I should get my architect in, possibly get my friend in who may have an outside view to the house. I can understand your point. As a buying agent, I would advise you completely and utterly towards the house. Totally understood. But there are other means to get professional advice on different.
Of course there are, and that's very much open to everybody, whether it's all along that process. But none of those people will search through all the property listings for you, go and talk to their contacts in the marketplace and find things that aren't on the market, particularly. They won't go and preview those things to make sure that their client isn't wasting their time, because we all know, a decent wide angle lens or a bit of a retouch on a photo or whatever it may be, that's, and listen, this is not a criticism of estate agents doing their job.
No, absolutely.
You do your job.
Yeah.
You've got to sell the product.
Normally even on like, you're just coming out with these wide angle lenses and the photos and all that. And, like being in this industry for so long now, you can actually, and if someone says to you that, oh, I'm looking for a property up on let's say on the first floor, second floor, third floor, whatever, penthouse. But it's a must that I should have a lift. Normally, estate agents in their listings will be like, when there's a lift, yes, it's like blasted everywhere. Maybe on the first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, with lift. And then when it doesn't have a lift, you read the whole description 10 times, you will not find the word lift in there.
But how curious, isn't it? Because, and of course, you being an agent, having worked in the market for a long time, you understand that.
Yeah.
A buyer doesn't necessarily understand that, let alone a buyer coming from a foreign country with an entirely different view of how you buy property, what a leasehold is, what freehold is. Does it matter that it's is there an impact on price because of this particular lease length? And look, they're not going to call their lawyer every 5 minutes. So some of these lawyers will charge them 50 quid just to answer that question. So it's about having that nice, go-to property professional, that expert, that consultant who understands the agency bit of it. And also you cut down the amount of work that you have to do when you're represented by a buying agent. And also the buying agent doesn't end up doing anywhere near the same sort of hassle, or having the same sort of hassle as a buyer does.
Yeah.
Because an estate agent knows that it's a buying agent. They don't send them things that aren't relevant. You know, they don't say, oh, listen, I mean, I have some wonderful, you know, stories. I remember I walked into a very well-known estate agency in Chelsea. And I said, yeah, I'm looking for this. And I said, look, you know, it doesn't matter. We can potentially look in Battersea. So obviously on the system went this Battersea thing. Lo and behold, sort of a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I'm getting emails from people in the Tooting office saying, would you consider Tooting? Yeah. And it's just like, probably not.
Yeah,
probably
not. No.
I know, but I've always done my best, tried to be very, very polite to people. And, you know, we don't need to, you know, people, when you understand that people are just trying to do their jobs, especially negs, and that's why it's so important to do business before you set up a company or something, is to understand those processes that you have to go around, so that you can learn and make the most of it. Anyway, so going back to my long career, after the buying agency, but I've always carried on doing buying agency. That's always been something. It's always been a way that
are you still doing that?
Yeah, I represent. I mean, my last client, Singaporean clients, who and we bought for them in Knightsbridge, and yeah, so that still is ongoing. Okay. But I then created a company called the London Management Company, and the London Management Company is a private property management company, and it looks after private clients, ultra high net worths, and their
properties, apartments, assets, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's not rentals particularly.
Is it just London that you look after that, or you go all the way up?
Sorry?
Do you just look after London, or you go all the way up to UK?
So the primary focus is London, but we manage assets in the south of France, and we manage assets in the home counties. Okay. So it does expand. We're potentially looking at the moment further afield to some other countries as well. So it's just you know, it's a mixture. Basically, the client comes to us, they like the way that we work, and the team are very good at delivering that. But I did that from 2000. I set it up in 2010, and I left that, or I sold my majority share in 2016. To the excellent management team who are now running.
And they're still running today.
Yes, absolutely still running today. They've got over £1 billion of assets under management. So and the management.
Do you ever think to buy your shares back?
On occasion, you know, there's always that moment. But look, I mean, you know. I know what my role is in starting businesses. I am a founder. I have the energy to do it. I'm lucky that, and not necessarily I got the money to do it. I start all of them on a shoestring, and so they should.
So if someone has an idea and they have the investment, they should find you to be the founder.
Well, I mean, yeah, they can do. I mean, but you know, they.
Is it just property related, or you go to any other sectors also?
Yeah, listen. You should always stick to what you know. I mean, there are principles, of course, that you can apply in general terms across other businesses.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, I'm good at property, and I've got a network, of course, that understands property. So I don't think I'd be well placed. I mean, also my maths is dreadful, so I wouldn't be well placed, particularly going and working in fintech or something like that. I did once try to set up a marketing company, and it was you know, the principle of it worked, and I just thought this is too much effort for the return. So, you know, chin that off. I'm not going to do that.
We've got a comment here by Belle Gravia. I'm a Knightsbridge solicitor. I own Feltons, and using a buying agent and property manager is advisable for offshore clients. 100%.
And absolutely,
you've got to do that.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of lawyers, fund managers, trust companies, family offices, they work on the basis of referring their clients into an expert.
Absolutely.
And you know, and I mean, you know, there was a guy who I once looked after on the management side very, very early on. Lovely gentleman. He was a doctor from the Middle East, and he got referred to me by a private bank after he bought the houses, or after he bought the properties. And what was quite interesting about that was he'd already bought those assets, and you know, he had got off the plane, he got in a cab, he'd walked into an estate agency, and they had sold him 4 assets at relatively inflated prices, in my humble opinion,
Okay.
with a promise of a return
Oh.
that was never going to be realized.
6%,
Yeah.
8%.
5-6%. Don't worry about it, sir. It'll be fine. You'll be, you know, it'll be absolutely easy. Don't you? You'll just furnish them, and we'll let them for you. Don't worry. You know, it's 2%. You know, because they all start at 2, because there are 4. You know, there are 40 units that come to the market at exactly the same
Exactly.
time.
I mean, 40 would you'd be lucky 40 right
Yeah,
now.
400. You know, exactly. So anyway, so that was what the management business did. And then
Yep.
after I left that, I then took a bit of a break, and then I came back and I started to get into the market again. And I spoke to a lot of people, and I started to see this trend of people leaving, actually very experienced, knowledgeable, well-connected, quite highly regarded individuals were leaving
Just like agents.
big agencies and heading out on their own. And what I thought at that moment was, God, I hope we don't end up like another 2008, 9, 10. Because although I'd highly recommend that people who have got the network and they've got the ability to generate their own business, they've got the go, and
Yep.
their appetite for risk is such that they can absolutely go and set up on their own. Doing it on your own today is very, very time consuming, and it is also very risk heavy. And if you are just one person barking in the wind against reams of stuff that's coming on, you know, you can get lost in that, you can drown in that noise. If you then create a group who work together of like-minded people who are trusted, who've got
Yep.
good contacts, who they're covering off the stuff that you couldn't possibly cover off, but you're sharing information, you're talking to each other, you're doing deals with each other, you're sharing fees, you're all of that stuff within a group that's well networked, that has got an element of rule and regulation
Yep.
around it,
Yep.
but is
Yep.
not, why are you not at your desk at 8 o'clock in the morning? And, you know, you should be doing 30 viewings a day.
150 calls a day.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. You know, people who have been in the industry for 10 years, and people who've been in the industry probably for 7 years, know how to do the job. Otherwise, you wouldn't have stuck at it for that long.
Or the company
You know,
that kept you for so long.
and you don't need to be micromanaged. What you need to be done is trusted.
Mm.
And you should, and also for a lot of people, a lot of the people in particular who are leaving these agencies, they've got their own network. They've got.
Don't you think that's a bit like, okay, let's say I just graduated from university and I want to get into real estate, and I got into, let's say, for example, Knight Frank. Worked there for about 5 years, maybe 10 years or whatever, built up the network on the back of such an amazing agency. You know, you wouldn't be a super agent if you didn't have that super brand behind you.
So that is a very relevant question.
And then if you take your network, it's not your network, it's the company's network. You're taking that network and taking it to your own business. I mean, how would you can't do anything about it, because that person, okay, you keep him on garden leave, doesn't mean that he's going to stop talking to people. Right.
So listen, I think you ask a very, very pertinent question, and I think it's one that is very, very relevant today, whether we're talking about anything that we do, or whether we're talking about other people and there are other businesses. But there is no doubt that there are big names leaving big agencies at the moment and going out on their own. So there are two parts to it, I suppose. The first is that person successful at that agency because of the agency, or is that agency or that office successful because of that character in the office? And the answer is there isn't an answer. The answer is depends on the juxtaposition between those two moving parts in any one relationship. So, for example, you might have somebody at, let's say, a Knight Frank-esque top 3 agency, yeah, and they've sat in, let's say, the Park Lane office. I'm throwing names out there so we don't concentrate too much on one group. In the Park Lane office, and they've sat there for 10 years. They developed a reputation of themselves, but they then decide to leave, and they leave rightly and correctly. They don't take any of the details of those clients with them. They leave, and then they go on. Now, of course, you cannot stop people doing business with each other. You can't do it legally, and you also can't do it just practically. If people are friends and they've developed personal relationships with people they've either bought or sold for over those years, they are entitled to make those relationships in the same way that somebody can move from any business into another business. You can't
personal
restrict that.
Relationships would you make? I mean, what, 5, maybe 10?
So I always like to use the example of 10.
Yeah, 10.
Because, and I'll come back to that. But
yeah,
there are some people who massively network all the time. They maintain their relationships with their clients all the time. And that's brilliant. Those people have got a huge amount of energy, and well done to them. And they work, they work jolly well. However, there is that, so they can't take, and they shouldn't breach the contract in essence.
Yeah. But they do.
Now, some of them do. That's not down to me. That's how, however happens. And some people get sued from it, and some people get threatening letters and all the rest of it. And that is absolutely fine. That's how it works. That's the world. It happens in law firms. It happens in estate agents. It happens in marketing companies. People leave businesses and they work for competitors. And how companies and the law deals with that is not for this discussion. However,
but then you brag about it.
Some people do.
That you've made it because you put the effort in, you put that in, but you were using a big name. You were.
Yes, but that's not all. That doesn't always necessarily translate.
Yeah.
There are some super well connected individuals who, because of who they are, bring business to that agency. So, and without a question, I'm not going to name names, but there are certainly a number of people who take that client base with them because they've developed that client base. In some cases, they've developed that entire market. In some agents who are particularly good, let's say, for example, they tend to be country specific. Yeah. A good market within the Middle East, or a particular country within the Middle East, within the CIS, within the US, within Asia, somewhere like that, they've got a great network. They've worked out there, they've developed their teams, and those teams send them business. So, and so when that person leaves, they're going to take those people are going to call them. And that is quite an interesting, and that's the point, isn't it? People call people.
Yep. Because they're not calling the agency, they're calling that particular person because they've done business with that particular person. They trust that person that he will or she will produce the best options when I need my real estate in London, for example, or the UK.
Exactly. And of course, if you then add a layer on that of what happens over time. So let's say in the normal course of a transaction in London, let's say it's somewhere between 5 and 7 years, a purchase and then a sale and another purchase. As an example.
Yep.
The person that they dealt with has either left that agency, might have left the industry altogether, or they've been promoted. And so now when, Mrs. Jones, who bought the top floor walk up in Cornwall Gardens in 2010 comes to sell that in 2020 and reaches out to, you know, Sally from Douglas and Gordon.
Yeah.
Sally's not at Douglas. Sorry about that. She's promoted as a manager, so she might get that call, but you know, she then can't deal with it in the same way.
Yeah,
you know, and that's a pretty sad moment, isn't it? Oh, well, I'm really sorry. Listen, I'd love to deal with you. Unfortunately, I can't. Here is my colleague Jack.
Yeah,
you know, Jack's got 4 years under his belt, not 10, and now they're not selling a flat that was 600 grand. They're selling a flat that is now $1 million and two, or something like that. You know, and they're buying at, I don't know, 2 or something. It's an entirely different relationship. It's a different person. It's a different kettle of fish. Although I would say, some people say, actually, it doesn't matter whether you're selling a house at 500 grand or selling a house at 2 million quid. The process is the same, and actually you should treat people in relatively the same way. But there are complications, and there is a reality that one faces, that people with big numbers want to be respected in a different way.
Like the person who's selling a property at maybe what, like you said, 500,000, and the person who's selling a property at 2 million, 3 million. It's human nature. People will put them in different, you know, sort of frame of mind. That okay, he's paying my fees, but yet this guy, the fee that I'm going to get from him is going to be humongous than what I'm going to get from this guy, you know.
But and so add into that something that, one of the things that I've noticed quite interesting recently, because I know people who are moving out of London quite a lot. You know, so my generation who are having children, they've got a couple of kids, and then they're taking that first move out. And there are people who are selling in the countryside who bought their house for £375,000, and they're selling it at 1.2. You know, and the sort of, and this is sort of mean, but the IKEA kitchen that was absolutely satisfactory for the house price as it was is now absolutely not satisfactory for the person that is buying that house.
Yeah,
and they don't get it. And it's not because they don't get it or they can't get it. They don't get it because you know, they own a house that they bought for 375 grand.
Exactly.
You know, and so, you know, that's why you have to have, you know, agents have to appreciate that. It's a different, you're selling it to everyone, and they've got to be that person in the middle. Who is encouraging that and explaining that, and so that people don't take offense at it. You know, my grandmother sold a flat in Knightsbridge, you know, and I think she did the kitchen up probably 15 years ago, and it was brand new to her. You know, Granny, I'm
15 years ago, still calling it brand new.
You know, but of course, to that generation, a 15-year-old kitchen is brand new. when you're 90, 15 years ago is not that long ago. So, you know, anyway. But listen, let's start. You wanted to talk about tech, and maybe that's
the point. So we've got like 25 minutes of our session. So please enlighten me on what the technology, how you're helping real estate agents buying.
So okay, so well, I don't want to use it too much to promote the London Broker. People want to find out about the London Broker, go to the London Broker, give us a call, fill out the join us thing. We'll be in touch. We'll tell you everything you need to know about that. But in terms of the tech, I do think it's interesting, and I think it's a very, very relevant point. I think it's particularly relevant now. We have just, we are going through, we have been through this period of lockdown and remote working and all of that sort of thing. And for me, that technology piece, what happens in pandemics or great tragedies that go through the world, wars, pandemics, whatever, exactly. It speeds up change, and things that were already happening jump 5 to 10 years further on than they might do in a very short period of time. So, for example, people having conversations like this and broadcasting it to the world, like you've been very successfully doing on your channel, is a new thing.
Absolutely.
and giving the time to it
Yeah.
is also a new thing.
I mean, I wouldn't think of doing this 8 weeks ago.
Of course not.
You know, I was there, okay, leave my live session on and then talk to people who come on and say hello and bye and okay. Now it's like totally different. Like I can speak to anyone that I want who wants to spread a bit of positivity, knowledge, you know, selling techniques, you know, how to generate leads, business coaching, life coaching, all that kind of stuff. So why not use technology to the right way so it paves the right path for you? Yeah.
Absolutely. But and more, and also, you know, your reach now is a lot bigger than it would be if, let's say, for the sake of, what do estate agents do? They might hold a drinks party in their office, you know, and you invite what? Yes, exactly. But, you know, you drunk a drinks party in your office and you might have, you know, somewhere between 15 and 50 people.
Yeah.
Now, for free, without putting the beers on, you can have 150 people there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can also come and join your party 2 days later.
Exactly.
And listen to what you were saying.
Yeah.
So that's great. And what a brilliant thing for estate agents, because in real terms, our industry has suffered from a lower barrier to entry.
Yep.
To throw that party, as it were, to market yourself. But, you know, you don't need to spend as much money as you used to. So in the old days, you know, what's an office cost to set up? You know, in prime central London, it's ludicrous. But in a normal part of London, what, 50 grand a year rent, rates at 25 grand, 75 grand in total, before you fitted it out, put the staff in it, tech, telephony, cars, etc., etc. You know, you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds to get that thing off the ground.
Yep.
And now I can do it from home on my computer, and I've got the same reach. And in fact, I can have a bigger reach because I'm not just hitting the people in where I am at the moment in Streatham.
Yeah.
I'm hitting people all over the world, and I am creating a network. I am putting myself out there, and people are coming in and they're hearing about me, and then they're looking at my website. And, you know, unfortunately ours is coming soon, but it's coming soon because we've taken this opportunity to take it down and get it up again. You know, thank God that's nearly done. But, you know, we are we can also now, and this is where for me the big change is probably going to come. And I'm afraid there are great positives to it, but there are also great side effects of it. The estate agents own shops in real terms because that was their advertising hoarding. There's a James Pendleton office, which is my favourite. I always wanted it when I lived on Prince of Wales Drive, and it's the one on Queenstown Roundabout, because you go. Everybody coming into that trunk road over Chelsea goes past that thing. It's a hoarding. Yep. And they've got one. They do it very well. And I remember when that first opened, and I walked in and, you know, said hello to everybody and said how jealous I was and I wish I'd had the money to do it. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, but now, you know, when you ask people who walks into your estate agency, I mean, and I've asked a lot of people that. And they say, you know, on the King's Road, as an example, somebody once said to me, it's either foreigners who are browsing, they don't really have any intention of buying. People who are drunk because they've got nothing else to do and they fancy a chat. And contractors coming to pick up keys. Now, I'm sorry, but that office is costing me probably 500 grand a year.
Just for having
that,
as in drunk people or people who don't want to buy.
And also, the next thing is, of course, we put photographs in the window. People might look past, and maybe somebody will Google it later and say, "Oh, I do like the look of that house." But actually, what do? They all sit. People own an iPad.
I mean, I have my agencies in Holland Park.
Yeah,
and it's more of a serviced office rather than a high street shop. But there's another agency that's on the high street. So we work together on certain properties. But when I moved into that shop, I saw their window, and it's been 3 years I've moved to Holland Park. Those windows haven't changed.
No, but it's
Those properties haven't changed.
no, and they start to become sun bleached. I think I know where your office is. But but that's a really critical point, isn't it? Because the truth is,
I even went to them. I said, you're advertising 2.5, 3 million, 5 million pound properties. If you had sold it, this wouldn't be here right now. But the fact is, you haven't sold it. Why don't you put, let's do like a joint venture onto this. Advertise some of put it onto your logo, everything, whatever. I deal with properties up in Manchester, Birmingham, for example. The price points are low. There might be someone that walks past and says, "Oh, £100,000. I might go for it." All that kind of stuff. So, but anyways, yeah, it is,
and I do think those sorts of partnerships, by the way, I think are a very good thing to do. And I think that more people, I'm a very big fan of people helping each other in the industry. That for me is actually super, super important. But when you then
there are many stuck-up people out here.
Oh, listen, you can't do anything about that. There's no point in worrying about it. Get on, do your best, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
That's the truth of it.
Absolutely.
Other people don't matter.
Yep.
You matter.
Yep.
You're the one who matters, and so you have to do your best. Ignore people who don't want to help you, and find those who do. Exactly. And I think that, and listen, that is always going to be a case in any industry, and it happen. And people behave in a way they have to behave, but similarly, if they're not, and to be honest with you, there is the flip side. There are people who are not great, who some people try to protect themselves from.
Yep.
Who can cause damage to brands and all the rest of that sort of thing, which is why people do have to be careful. But going back to the point about the way the industry has changed. So for me, actually, I'm writing something about it at the moment. There was the change for me is 2010 and the invention of the iPad. The iPad allowed people to step away from looking at properties on their desktop or on their laptop, which is actually quite a fuss to do that.
Yep.
To then put it on their phone or their iPad, and it now is just a hobby.
Yep.
You're viewing property porn, actually. And you do it on the loo, you do it in bed, you do it on the sofa. All that. Exactly.
Yep.
And so what that then means is the estate agents' offices aren't needed anymore, because you're getting the same. You're looking at that window card whenever you want. And also, I don't need to walk in and that awkward moment of, oh, hello, is anybody able to help? Exactly. And also, some people find that quite intimidating. I worked in a Foxtons office where our entire sales team were men. So to walk into an aggressive boiler room office where there are probably 15 men, God forbid you be a pretty woman. I mean, everybody stood up to try and help. But that doesn't necessarily translate for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're very amusing.
I try. But the point is that of course, it makes life a lot easier. So you just reach out and say, "Hi, can I do a viewing?" Blah 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 blah. And so, but where we've half achieved things is that we've toned down the office bit a bit, but what we've done is we've taken the human being out of it.
Yeah.
People now do viewings because they've got to hit a target for how many viewings they do, irrespective of whether that viewing is going to garner them a lead or not. Doing a viewing is actually quite an expensive hobby. Car, petrol, time out of the office, staff, all of that sort of stuff. And not to mention the bother that actually for a vendor.
Have you ever calculated how much would one viewing cost in the estate agent?
So I personally not. I'm not that good at maths, but somebody said to me the other day it's about £60, depending. It depends on where you are. It depends on how they do it. Obviously, to leave the office and go and walk down the road and do a viewing is not the same as leaving an office, getting in your car, parking. I mean, You know, the parking charge. How much is a parking charge in prime central London for like
£5.40?
exactly? Yeah.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, not to mention that half of them don't have change, or they'll forget to do it, and they'll get a ticket for 50 quid.
But now
So-
they can't blame that because they don't need to have change. It's all
Maybe I'm being a bit old hat, but anyway. But the point is that it's a very expensive thing to do. And what I think and what I hope is going to happen now is that these virtual tours, another business obviously that I do, are going to take off in real terms. And it's not to replace the human being in any way, shape, or form, but it needs to be a filter.
okay.
We need, as agents, we need to think about our costs.
Yep.
And it is a lot cheaper to get somebody to go and do a virtual tour for you, and all the stuff that then can then come from. You can get social media video, you can get your photographs, you can get a floor plan, you then add in the virtual tour, etc., etc. And depending on how you use it, you can use it in different ways. But even in its most basic form, people are going to look at it. They're going to, if you put it on Rightmove, and you might want to, you might not want to, but if you put it on Rightmove, people are going to look at that, and they're going to see it, and then they're going to go into it, and they're going to make a decision on
Yep.
whether they want to see that property or not.
Yep.
And those people were never going to buy that house, or, you know, if they get past that and they look at it, highly unlikely that they were going to go and buy it in the first instance anyway.
Mm.
But the reason that we do viewings is because that's the basis on which everyone does a pitch.
Yep.
Oh, well, of course, I got 40 buyers registered. You know, you must come and look at us. Oh, well, you know, we've got 40 buyers registered. We want to get them all through the door. As a vendor, I want you to get one buyer through the door tomorrow who's going to buy it.
Cash.
That is the deal. That's what I want.
Yeah.
At the asking price.
Yeah.
You know,
That if we achieve that.
whether that's possible or not, I don't know. But that's the ideal, isn't it? And then they'll say to you, oh, well, you haven't done very much work. Can you do something on your fee? But, you know, that's where we've got to get to, because then we can start to make real profits. Not, there is so much business, big business in particular, has been leveraged against debt in essence.
Yep.
It's leveraged against cash flow, and the businesses aren't ever really making any money.
Yep.
What they're doing is they're either borrowing, or the investors putting money in to cover the stuff. We need to do more viewings. No, you need to do less viewings, better. And you need to, of course, talk to the buyer, talk to the vendor. And let's look about, you know, when we look at the statistics and the MI, as we would call it, that comes out of the portals, I'm sorry, but the MI that is coming out of the portals that we're paying for, by the way, is appalling. I don't want to know how many people have done that on the screen, you know, scroll through my property.
Yep.
I want to know how many people have actually clicked on it. How many people have clicked on it more than once? How many people have clicked on it 5 times? How many people have shared it? How many people have gone back one day, come back again to it? And not only do I want to know how many people there are, but I want to be able to reach out to those people. I want to be able to say, you know, I don't need to know who they are, but I do want to be able to reach out to them. So I can be anonymized data.
Yep.
I want to be able to say to them, hello, I noticed that you've looked at our property 4 times. Would you like to see the virtual tour? Or would you like, shall we have a phone call about it? I'd
Yep.
love to tell you more about this fabulous house.
Yep.
You know, why have you looked at it 4 times? You know, that's good. That's what you want to do. And then when we get that data, we can be all the more accurate about what we're reporting back to clients. Instead of saying, oh, well, we did 40 viewings with 40 people who didn't really want to buy your house. You know, what we've had is we put it out there. We got 4,000 hits.
Yep.
On Rightmove and Zoopla and wherever. And now what we've seen is actually 10% of those people came back and looked again. And we've reached out to those 10 people, of which we've shown 5.
Doors to 5 people. Yep.
Exactly. And that's how we can do it. Now, funnily enough, I'm currently looking at a system to integrate some of that data as best we can into our Matterport scans, so that we can see Where do these people come from?
Yeah.
You know, where is that lead being generated from? And so, of course, with social media, you know, I put an image of your house on social media. It got 400 likes or 40 likes or, you know, 7 likes or whatever it was. And
yeah,
here is that data, Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Jones. That is really good. And we should also be able to take advantage of the lowered cost of being able to advertise on social media for much less than we ever were able to advertise before.
Do you think, coming back to that advertisement point of yours, do you think because social media is growing on an enormous level now, like literally, like people are advertising on LinkedIn, social, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, do you think the use of Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, like you mentioned, estate agents, is soon going to die out, right? Who's going to go into the room, into the office? And
when you say an estate agent, you mean the office shop?
The office,
yeah.
Right? Who's going to go into there anymore? Do you think these guys are also going to die out, and people will possibly search hashtag Knightsbridge, hashtag 1 bedroom, got the set of all the 1 bedrooms on Instagram?
I think that's a really interesting question, and I think it depends what happens to social media over the coming weeks, not weeks, months, years. I'm afraid to tell you that I don't think the aggregators are going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay.
I think that, and I also think they're an important part of the industry because it enables people who are not big agents to share exactly the same platform. It is actually a great leveler in real terms because, okay, you can do promoted here and, you know,
highlight,
you know, whatever, highlight. In real terms, everybody, whether you're Knight Frank or whether you're a one-man band loading it up manually onto Rightmove, everybody gets treated the same. And in real terms, you know, they're all appearing in order, in price order, newest listed, oldest listed, furthest distance, all that sort of stuff, as everybody else.
No, and I will correct you there, because let's say, for example, I search a 1 bedroom in Knightsbridge right now, and let's say the premium listing, which is, let's say, at 1.2 million, and you've actually highlighted the filter to start from low to high.
Yeah.
Or high to low, for example.
Yeah.
The next property that is on there is at 1.5. They should go from high to low.
So, but you can change that. You can change that, can't you?
No.
Oh.
Will be on the top, regardless.
The premium one. Okay, yeah. So I get you. Yeah. So, okay, that's fine because people are paying for a list, but you can pay for a listed. You can pay for a promoted or a.
You can, but then.
Yeah, I get that. I get that point within reason, but in real terms, once you're in, you know, it's like that for me, in my opinion, anyway. That premium listing is like a Google ad. Nobody clicks on the Google ads.
That's how they've done it. That's how
you want to be the first natural listing. Yeah, always. And I think that so I think that we get to that point where though what I think has to happen is those aggregators, Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, they have to change. They've got to get a lot better in delivering that data so that the agents can then use that data, because at the end of the day, we're paying for it, you know, and I think that is a very, very important point that they have to go. If they don't, I think what you're talking about, they won't necessarily die. They won't necessarily die, but what they might do is people will use them less.
Yep.
And Rightmove is a cash cow now.
Yep.
It's one of the most, and no matter what agents want to do about it, I'm afraid it's going to be there and it's going to stay there. I'm sorry to say. And well done them. You could, you know, crikey, I'd love to be a shareholder or you know, this is one of the senior sort of shareholders in Rightmove. But so that's the reality of it. But do I think they will get better? And do I think there are challenges? Home search is coming up now, and I think they're trying to get into that data. But then, of course, what you should be doing is it should be this sort of freemium service.
Yeah.
Everybody lists for free.
Yeah.
And then you can start paying for the data. I want to reach out to those 5 people who've looked on my property 40 times.
Paid lead.
And I will pay you to reach out to those people and get that lead. I think that's how it should work, because that's how it works in every other industry. At the moment, we were one of the first to go online.
Yep.
And it hasn't changed. I mean, the offering even from on the market, it was set up by estate agents, is still exactly as it was when it was Find a Property.
Yep.
What an opportunity missed for that. So anyway, I know I'm very conscious of the time. I mean, I can rattle on forever, but I think that in terms of that tech, it's going to lower our costs. It's never going to replace the human being. You can't, because the deal requires the human being to be involved in it.
You need to have that human interface.
Absolutely. You will not ever get rid of the human being.
You got to lower your price, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what you have to do is you lower your overheads, and you have to use tech to do that. And then, of course, the next thing will be, because you're talking so accurately about the social media piece, we're all using social media now because we've got the time to do it. When we haven't got the time and we're back doing our day jobs, how are we going to make that time?
Which is from today.
Well, marvellous. Great. If anybody can get to the viewing without going on public transport while staying alert. So that's where we've got to get to, and that's where this tech piece is going to do. But I spend my days literally thinking about that. How can I improve our service offering to my brokers and to my clients, whilst at the same time not spending thousands of pounds on a bespoke system that people, I mean, some people spend £7 million developing software that you can buy off the shelf.
Exactly. What do your rates start at to use the tech that you're producing for estate agents?
So our platforms, we have a range of, it depends how much you want to take, but some people start at £100 plus 10% commission, and then it goes upwards. It goes up to, well, it can be £1,000 plus 10 plus a different slice of commission. So it varies. There are completely different pricing models, and that's the thing that people, if they're interested, can reach out to us directly, and we can tell them all about it and how it works and all of that sort of thing. But
I'm going to bring in that join us form today.
Oh, great. Well, I'm really pleased.
As soon as I finish, and I'll be waiting for a call on that. But because I've had enough of manual work that is done, and I really want to move my company, because we are going to be technified totally, and I want to move in there before other people do, and possibly get the advantage of using tech the right way so that we can sell more and do more.
And that's ultimately where we've all got to get to. And, we have to use there are a lot of tools out there that are brilliant, and you can really, and they're not that expensive, but you've got to apply it, and you've got to understand how to apply it. And that's what we're there to help people with.
Absolutely. But I would like to just say quickly that if there are any other agents who saw this or who are going to view this in the next 24 hours, and this will be live on my IGTV as well, you want to use tech, go and speak to London Broker, my London Broker, and they will help you out with their technology, what they're coming out with, because I want to know about it. I'm going to fill in that form soon.
Super kind.
Super. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for your time and giving me the opportunity to talk.
From where you started and how you are. And
there's at least another 4 hours of it.
But we should do it again. I really.
Whenever. I'm always happy to do this sort of thing.
Super. Thank you.
Look after yourself. Stay safe.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was My London Broker, who deal with the technology aspect of providing estate agents the real tech to deliver the sales that they need to. Like I mentioned, check them out, My London Broker, Instagram, or their website, and fill in the form. So thank you so much to all those that tuned in, and we've got another live session at 6. So I will see you then. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.